Okay, good evening, everyone. We're continuing with 3 minutes of Tehillim. We are up to Perek, Kuf, Psalm 100. Mizmor L'Soda, Hariyu L'Hashem Kol Haaretz. This is the psalm that is given, that is said over bringing the Karban Toda. The Karban Toda was an offering of praise, of thanks for Hashem. Fascinating, the Mefarshim point out that there's 41 words in this Perek, which correspond to the Karban itself, the Karban Toda, and the 40 loaves of bread that accompanied it. Another interesting thing that Mefarshim note is that Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, appears 4 times in this Perek, which corresponds to the 4 different types of loaves that were brought, and the 4 different types of people who would bring a Karban Toda as an offering of thanks for Hashem saving them. Number 1, someone who was released from prison. Number 2, someone who was had an illness and recovered, one who crossed the sea or traveled, and someone who went through a desert. So 4 times Hashem's name, 4 times the different loaves of bread, and 4 of the different people who were freed. There's a fascinating medrash that tells us that la'asid lavo, in the future times, all karbanos will become nullified, will all be batel, will all be nullified in the future. However, the Karban Tamid ain't no batel. Why is it that the Karban Tamid is not going to be nullified in the future times in the Messianic era? So I want to quote from Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, whose yahrzeit was this past Monday, Chaf Zayin Teves. So Rav Hirsch has a beautiful explanation in his commentary on Tehillim. He says as follows. He says, Toda, the word Toda can often mean thanks or an admission, a hodah. And he says that it denotes an acknowledgement of what God has meant to us in the past, what He means for us in the present, and what He should be for us in the future. And that, therefore, the Karban Toda has a way in the futuristic times, in the Messianic era, of bringing everything together full circle. And I'm just going to read, it's a translation, but it's so beautiful, his language here. He writes, commenting on this medrash, that the other tefillos and other karbanos will become batel. He says, when one day in the future that is to come, all things on earth will be in such an ideal state that there will be no more cause for prayers and offerings. Even then, prayers of gratitude and thanksgiving offerings will never cease. For it would be only under such conditions that these acts would attain their true significance. In other words, only in the Messianic era when we can see that everything come full circle, the past, the present, and the future all merge together, and we understand, we see everything comes together, that's when the Thanksgiving can be completely reach its full expression. And he says, therefore, this psalm of thanksgiving is put here in Tehillim on Perek Kuf as a finale of sorts, because the last few parakim we've been discussing are talking about the Messianic era. That's Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos. We spoke about all the parakim that we use in Kabbalah Shabbos, because Shabbos is a window into that world. Kuf, Perek Chaf, is the finale, because it's when we finally see in the advent of the Messianic era, we can see the past, the hodah, the admission of what was, the present, and then we can see in the future it all coming together. And therefore, even when our needs are not going to be as present in the future, in the Messianic era, we're not going to have as much need, but there still will be the thanksgiving, because we can continue to see Hashem's hand in the past, in the present, and then in the future.